Hi, it's Lee from ColouringQueen.net, and I finally got the English edition of Lunar Colouring book. This is the 5th colouring book by Swedish artist Maria Trolle. It was first released with the same title in Sweden last year, and now we have the English imprint. It's being published by Gibbs Smith, which have published Maria's previous books and Hannah Carl's own as well. They always try and stick to the same format as the Swedish edition, including using the same paper. So it has a hardback cover with a coloured cover with lovely gold foiling on it. There is one thing I don't like about this book, but I'll show you the pictures first and then I'll tell you what it is. Now, it has a stitch binding there that makes it really easy to fold over and get a good colouring in of the pictures, even if they're in the ditch. There are a number of double page scenes in this book, and some have a solid printed background, and that's because the theme is a walk in a moonlit garden, and often that's really dark. And as you can see, most of the pictures are really well positioned and centred in the book. Now, this book is 88 pages, whereas Flora was 96 pages, so there's about 8 pages left. And as per usual with Maria's books, there's black protective paper at the front and the back. And there's also a register of plants and animals with their proper botanical, proper Latin names at the back of the book, as well as a testing page to test out your mediums, which we'll do later on. Or if you just want to skip to that section now, just look at the links below and it'll take you directly to whichever medium I've tested. Excuse the fly that I've got buzzing around me today, it's really annoying. It's either animals or insects or something happening here. So these images are gorgeous, and they feature a gorgeous little girl throughout that reminds me of Vivi from Vivi Wants a Friend. And most of the images have a lot of detail in them, a lot of plants and stuff. But see, like this picture on the left here, I feel like a lot of the details are really small, and same again on this one. I like the way that the theme continues, like with sea themes on both sides, or small fairy houses and darker fairy houses. But this is the more sizing of a picture that we're used to from Maria. And some of these pictures I feel like they're a little bit too small or too detailed. And that's probably for me because my eyesight is just really not what it used to be. But some of them I feel could have been a little bit larger, perhaps. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm getting really old here, but I feel like a lot like this one on the left. It's very small little details. Same here again on the left. And I love how she continues the theme with the girl on both sides, etc. But some of the details I'm going to find it a little difficult. I might not be able to colour them on camera because I might be sitting with the book right up in front of me in order to get through these details. But I love how she's incorporated all of these animals and all of these fairy houses, and in my opinion the book is far better than her previous book. It looks like the composition of the pictures is just really beautiful, and I just love this little girl throughout and the variety of the pictures, even though I'm finding at the moment that some are too detailed for me. Hopefully when I colour them I'll feel differently about it, but I like the little girl and the whole moonlit scene. It really appeals to me. Gives it like a fairy-like quality. Now that's the plant register, and this is the animal register. You do have little elements there to colour in, and we've got our beautiful seahorse on the back, as well as that beautiful protective paper, gold foiling on the back. And I don't know who does her colouring for her book covers, whether it's her or whether it's someone else, but oh, they're always so stunning, aren't they? Absolutely stunning. So I'm going to test out some mediums on this book and see how they perform. The paper is always the same. Gibbs Smith do a fantastic job on the paper on these books. So first of all, I'm going to test out my Prismacolor Premieres. they're my go-to pencil. If you know me, I'm always using my Prismacolors. I should really, try and use other pencils and be a bit more inclusive with my pencils, but for me it's always the Prizzies win every time. So I just picked up 3 random blue pencils, and I probably should have put more thought into this, but I'm finding that it's not as enjoyable as it normally is. Now, Prismacolors usually need a lot of layers, and at the moment I'm finding that I'm going round in circles here, but I'm not really flattening the paper. There's still a lot of tooth going, and hopefully that will flatten out a little bit on the next round. We'll see. Now, this video has been sped up. I do not colour this fast. Trust me, I am as slow as a wet week, which I didn't want you to suffer with me while I colour so slowly, but I'm doing a bit more firmer pressure here. I'm really trying to flatten out that paper. And it is flattening down in some spots, and it's producing its usual vivid colour that Prismacolor does. However, there is still quite a lot of tooth showing, and for me, I think I'm probably going to need more layers on that. Now, these are the Prismacolor Scholars. They're the cheapo Prismacolors, and I've got to say I'm a big fan of Cheap and Cheerful. If you know me, you know that well. I find that these go on quite creamy, and they're blending in far nicer than the Premiers, but the Premiers will take more layers. So if you like doing more layers and you really want to build that up and flatten it out, you know how Chris Cheng does, she's amazing with her Prismacolors, then definitely the Premiers. But if you just like Cheap and Cheerful, the Scholars are going down really easily. Now, they are producing a little bit of pencil dust on here, but it's nothing too serious. It's not like a huge amount, but they are going down nice and softly and very creamy. And at 2 layers, I'm already flattened out the tooth, and that's pretty good up against the Premiers next to it that didn't flatten, and you can still see lots of white specks there because I didn't manage to flatten it at all. But again, if you want to add more layers, the Premiers are definitely going to work better on this paper. Now, trying out the Polychromos, they feel a little bit scratchy on the paper, to be honest, and it could just be my bias. I'm not really a poly girl. I've got to learn to be, really. I've got to learn, because on some paper they work really well, and I shouldn't, use pencils just because I like them. I should use what goes well on the paper. Now, they are flattening down well, and they're producing quite a lot of colour. And the Faber Castell just makes such good products. They're just so well made. Again, I picked 3 random pencils, and I should probably get some pencils set up here that I use for testing that do go well together, rather than just sticking my hand in the box and pulling something out. But on this second layer, they're really flattening down. They're producing a lot more colour and no pencil dust or wax bloom that you get with Prismacolors. The Polychromos are oil-based, and they're beautiful pencils. I just find the Prismacolors softer and creamier, but looking at the coverage that I'm getting with the Polychromos, maybe I should just use those in this book, because less effort and picture finish faster and more time to colour something else. So they really do produce a really good colour there, and I haven't used any blending agents or anything else. So let's try the cheap Crayolas. Now, these are just the student grade pencils. This is my packet of 50. I've had this forever and a day. I still haven't cracked open my packet of 100. Now, the sensation of them going down on the paper is just terrible, to be honest. It feels like I'm scratching my back. I'm really not happy with the amount of pigment that's coming out and the coverage, and the sensation is not overly pleasant of them hitting the paper. It does feel a bit scratchy, It feels like there should be more creaminess or waxiness in the binding agent for these that holds the pigment together. Now they do blend up and you can get some nice colours there. They're my least favourite of the pencils I've put down so far, mainly because of that sensation, but look at the colour up against the other ones. Not really getting a lot of colour happening there. And I mean, maybe it's my pencil choice, but not really finding this pleasant. But sometimes if the paper is, if I want to do a lot of layers, I might put down the Crayola first and then put my Prismacolor Premieres on top so that it has more grip, if you like, and so that you don't have to work so hard with the Prismacolors before it gets a little bit slippery and too waxy for you to deal with. Now these are my Holbein pencils just from my pack of 12 pastels. I can't believe that I'm still using that pack of 12 pastels even though I have the 150 set, but I'm still using them and they've still got plenty of life left in them. They're going down well on the paper, sort of equivalent to the Polychromos. Adding more colour, it's blending in easily and you're getting a lot of colour. Now if I'd cracked open my bigger set I could have got some colours that sort of worked better together, but I still like using this 12 set. I don't know why, I just probably want to use the setup. Now when we go in and add that second layer, it's really comparable to the Polychromos, not needing to do a lot of work here, and the tooth is already flattened and there's no pencil dust or wax bloom or anything like that. So they're pretty good, but the Holbeins are quite expensive and not everyone might have them. So I want to try some water-based mediums on here as well. So I'm going to try my Tombow markers and give them a go and make sure that they don't come through on the other side. Now the Tombow markers are water-based. I've had mine for years and years. Nothing is coming through on the other side, so no ghosting. And they're not refillable, and that really breaks my rules about buying things from now on that are refillable. But as I said, I've had mine for years. I've got the full set of them and I enjoy using them and I really should use them more. I used them a lot more often when I first got them and basically used them to colour everything. Now I probably have added a little bit too much water here and it did look like it was going to peel the paper and it started producing like a little white dotty type thing. But when this actually dried, it dried without any pilling or damage to the paper. Now I'm going to try my Inktense pencils. Again, even though I've got the full set of these, I'm still using the pack of 12 that I bought when I first wanted to try them out. So these and my Caran d'Ache crayons, I think they'll survive long after I do. Now I have put too much water on here, I've slopped it out, but I did that kind of on purpose, accidentally on purpose, I don't know. I did that to see if it would ghost onto the other side, so I've blotted a bit off. And I'm just going to add a little bit more water. And add a bit more colour on because I've blotted it off. And basically I'm just wanting to see what the paper will handle. And you can see that pool of water there. Now it is ghosting through to the other side, and when it dried it still had that ghost onto the other side, but if you were doing a background you wouldn't really notice it that much. So just be easy on the water. It's not watercolour paper if you're using a water-based product on it, and bear in mind that you may ruin the other side of the paper, so test it with your technique on it. So that's it from me. Until next time, stay safe and happy colouring.